Hello guys, welcome back to the Fox's Kitchen. My name is Bethany and today we are going to be doing a different recipe. We're doing pumpkin buckeyes, and the reason why I chose to do this is because it's a simple recipe which I think is great around the Halloween time if you want like a simple treat to make. So we're going to be doing that, and also some vegan hot chocolate as well, just in case we don't want the pre-packaged but want something homemade. So strap yourselves in as we prepare more sweets for the Halloween season.
Alrighty guys, for our pumpkin buckeyes, we're going to need a couple of kitchen equipment. You'll need one mixer, a hand mixer or a standing mixer, one bowl, and a measuring cup, along with your measuring teaspoons. Now for the ingredients, it's very simple. You're going to need a half cup of pumpkin puree, a half cup of peanut butter, 2 cups of powdered sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 4 tablespoons of softened butter, and a pinch of salt, and 8 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate chips. So for our first step, we're going to want to add the pumpkin puree along with the peanut butter, and then we're going to take our hand mixer and just mix them until they are well incorporated. Then you're going to add softened butter, salt, and cinnamon. Now, for me, what I did differently here was I did not add the butter, mainly because I just figured I would go along with not adding it at all, and I wanted to keep this vegan as much as possible. And I also added pumpkin pie spice seasoning to it, only to give it that extra flavor, the extra cinnamon taste to these buckeyes, just because I love the taste of cinnamon, and just adding that pumpkin pie spice just adds so much to it. Now, another thing that I forgot that I added differently to this recipe was I also added a little bit of vanilla extract to it, just to also give it that additional flavor to these buckeyes. And I felt like it was just one of those ingredients that was perfect just to add to these. Once you have added all these ingredients and mixed them really well, you're going to want to add your 2 cups of powdered sugar and also mix that in as well. Now, one thing that happened to me with this recipe, which I was not anticipating, was my mixture was really not like really runny, but it was too soft, is what I want to say. When it comes to buckeyes, you want the mixture to be thick so it's nice to like mold into like balls or to any shape that you want. But for this, the mixture ended up being really soft to the point where I had to refrigerate it overnight. It could be that I didn't add butter to the mixture. I know that there is vegan butter that I possibly could have added, but I just wanted to leave butter out of it altogether and not look for a substitute. Or it could be that the recipe requires more than just 2 cups of powdered sugar, because powdered sugar, from what I've been taught, is one of those thickening ingredients when it comes to icing or to anything to do with buckeyes. So if you guys know what the problem might have been, if you could leave a comment down below, that would be great. Now, if your mixture ended up thickening better than mine did, what you're going to want to do afterwards is you're going to want to refrigerate it for about an hour in the refrigerator. Now, for me, like I said before, mine I did refrigerate overnight to see if I can get it to more or less thicken and see if it would have a better or different result. Now, while my mixture was in the refrigerator, I did take this time to make my very own vegan hot chocolate powder for these fall days coming up because I do love hot chocolate, especially with how homey and how right it feels during this fall season, especially around Halloween time. For this recipe requires 1 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder, a half cup of coconut or cane sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. There are additional options. You can use vanilla bean and a half teaspoon of vanilla powder and or cinnamon, which I use cinnamon for mine just because again, love that cinnamon flavor. And you can also add 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Now, once you have all your ingredients for your hot chocolate, the recipe does require that you put them in a food processor. But for me, I did use a sifter just to more or less get everything nice and smooth and powdery for my hot chocolate. Now, when you're ready to make your hot chocolate, you're going to want to take 2 to 3 tablespoons of the cocoa mixture. And then you'll want to take your vegan milk and put it into a ceramic cup and either warm it into the microwave, or you can also do this way. You can put your vegan milk into a pot and let it come to like a warm, not boiling, but when it's like steamy, and then you'll want to put it into the cup with your cocoa mixture and then stir, and then you have yourself a good old vegan hot chocolate. After once your pumpkin buckeyes are done refrigerating, you're going to want to take the 8 ounces of the semi-sweet chocolate chips, and then you're going to want to put them into a microwavable bowl and do it for about a minute to 30 seconds. And for myself, I did add a bit, like a little under a tablespoon of coconut oil just to give it that nice sheen to my chocolate. But another thing to note is with your chocolate chips, you're going to want to check on them every 30 seconds and stir because if you don't, it could potentially get burnt. And that has happened to me before in the past. So just a word of caution when it comes to your chocolate, make sure you're doing that. That way you don't end up with a burnt chocolate. Now, if your mixture has thickened as opposed to what my mixture did, you're going to want to form your buckeyes into a ball-shaped form. And then you're going to want to dip them into chocolate and then put them in the refrigerator for them to cool. Now, for those who have their mixtures in like a round shape, before you dip them into your melted chocolate, one thing that I will advise you on is make sure you do it with a toothpick. Poke it with a toothpick and just like swirl the melted chocolate around it just to get it nice and coated the way you want it. And then put it on a piece of parchment with a baking pan, and that way it'll be much easier for you guys. I've done that so many times and it's been so helpful to have a toothpick just to like help you dip and swirl your buckeyes in. Now for me, I had to do things differently. I took my melted chocolate and I put them into these round mini cup molds, or just mini cups if you will. And since around Halloween season, I did take pumpkin molds and also put my melted chocolate into those until they were nicely shaped. Now, I'm not saying that if your recipe or your mixture came out to be thickened that you can't do this. You absolutely can. It depends on you guys of how much work you want to put into this. For me, when I did this melted chocolate with the mold shapes and everything, it was a little on the time-consuming side. But I won't lie, I did have a lot of fun shaping my melted chocolate into these pumpkin molds. It was just so much fun, and it just added that nice, like, fun feel for my Halloween desserts that I just got really giddy about it. So, if you guys want to do what I did here, absolutely go for it if that's what you wanna do. Now, once you have your melted chocolate into your molds, you're going to want to put them in the refrigerator for at least 10 to 15 minutes until they're nice and hardened. Once your chocolate is done hardening, you're going to want to take out your molds along with your pumpkin buckeye mixture. And then you're going to fill each mold with your mixture. Make sure to not go too over the top when you're filling these. I did try to leave a little space up at the top so it would have room for me to top it off with more melted chocolate. And I did use a piping bag when doing this. For those who don't have piping bags, it's not necessary to use it for something like this. You can use a teaspoon if you so choose, and it would just work out equally as piping bag would. So don't worry about it. If you don't have a piping bag with a teaspoon, you'll be absolutely fine. Once I had my pumpkin buckeye mixture into my molds, I did melt more semi-sweet chocolate chips into a microwavable bowl along with adding just a little bit of the coconut oil because as opposed to the first time, I didn't use 8 ounces. Instead, I just used 4 ounces of the semi-sweet chocolate chips because I'm only covering the top, so not a whole lot of chocolate is necessary for something like this. And after once I was done covering up my tops of my molds, I put it back into the refrigerator to cool off for an additional 10 minutes. After once the tops were done cooling off, I took my buckeyes out of the molds and just placed them on a plate to serve. And honestly, I am so happy with how these came out. I was really worried because my mixture was really soft with those complications coming into play. I really thought that this would not turn out as good as it did, but it turned out better than I expected. Aside from the flavors being on point, the mixture was still a little on the soft side for me, but even with that being said, I still enjoyed making these and I'm just incredibly happy with how well these turned out. Not just the taste, but with how they shaped out with the molds because I've not used too many molds with chocolate before, so this was my first time doing something like this. But in the end, it was completely worth it.
So for this recipe, I come to find that it could be both either vegan or non-vegan if you so choose. I know if you notice that the recipe I have chosen was a non-vegan, but I chose to opt out not using butter for this. You can use vegan butter if you so choose, but I find that after, I don't know if this had any play in the recipe itself, but I found that the mixture I had was super thin. It wasn't as thick as I would like it to be. So I wonder if it was maybe because I didn't add any vegan whatsoever. Even if I added vegan butter, maybe it would have helped. I am not sure. And then there was also the whole little messy scenario that we had with the chocolate, mainly because I am not very fluent in what to do when it comes to chocolate and the molds and everything. So this was my first time actually doing that. I have done other Buckeyes before, but they're always in a round ball and you could just dip them in and it was way easier. But this time around with the molds and everything else, it was a little difficult, but I still had a lot of fun doing this recipe, even though I had a couple of headaches where the mixture wasn't as thick as I would like it to be. But with that being said, I did think it was super delicious, with that being the case, and even with it being super thin, it was also very creamy in the center, which I come to like. and also had like that nice thin layer of the chocolate outside as well. So I hope you guys all enjoy this recipe, and hopefully this will be one delicious treat for you guys for the Halloween season. I hope you guys have a good Halloween. Bye!